6-year-old girl has her life cut short. The clues in the case lead in every direction, yet nowhere at all. Shocking unsolved crime number 2 is the death of child beauty queen JonBenet Ramsey. August 16th, 2006. It was a break in the case nearly a decade in the making. Police arrested John Mark Carr, an American living in Thailand, for the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. And they had a confession.
I was with JonBenet when she died.
Everyone was encouraged that perhaps, finally, this case that had frustrated so many people for so long had some kind of conclusion.
On August 28th, John Mark Carr was supposed to have his day in court. Instead, the results of a DNA test discredited him as a suspect. Investigators were suddenly back to square one. The false confession of John Mark Carr added yet another bizarre twist to a confounding crime that occurred almost 10 years earlier. It happened in Boulder, Colorado, the day after Christmas, 1996. Shortly after she awoke at 5 a.m., Patsy Ramsey claimed she found a ransom note on her stairs.
911 emergency. We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what's going on, okay? There's a note left in our daughter's door.
Police officers arrived at the Ramseys' upscale 6,800 square foot home at 5:52 a.m. Detectives waited with Patsy for the kidnappers to call. The phone never rang. At around 2 p.m., JonBenet's father, John, made a gruesome discovery.
The detective suggested, why don't you go look at everything? And so he went downstairs. One of the friends that had come to the house that morning was right behind him. That friend heard a loud scream and then saw John Ramsey running out of the room with his daughter's body.
Just moving an item of clothing or moving her body in the slightest way could detrimentally hurt the investigation.
The tiny beauty queen had been gagged with duct tape. She'd been struck in the head with a heavy, blunt object. Her wrists bound with white cord. She'd been sexually assaulted, then strangled. The evidence, what little there was, pointed in many directions.
You have to be thinking in terms of the possibility of a psychosexual killer, a serial killer.
Investigators found skin and hair fragments on JonBenet's clothing and under her fingernails.
It didn't match any of the males in her family, didn't match any of the males that we could identify as having been friends of the family. And so that has never been answered.
Then there was the ransom note. The odd sum demanded in the letter, $118,000, was exactly the amount of John's bonus check.
If you do this, she'll be beheaded. If you try to grow a brain, she'll be murdered. This went on for 2.5 pages.
There are criminal trespassers who have targeted my family and who know a lot about me. And that's got to cry out for my cooperation with the police. And what do the Ramseys do? They stonewall.
We've been forced through leaks, innuendos, and allegations to try to defend ourselves in the court of public opinion.
The leaks repeatedly said, look, there's something really weird about the Ramseys' role in this.
The case soon whipped up a media firestorm, and the shiny, smiling pageant pictures of JonBenet in heavy makeup and tiara seemed to appear everywhere.
That's what really spiked the curiosity of the American public, and then perhaps who could have been motivated to do harm to her because of that association.
One of the problems was that the police were focusing on the family as being responsible. The district attorneys, prosecutors, were focusing on a third-party intruder.
John and Patsy Ramsey's behavior didn't help the public's perception of them.
From the very early stages, they threw up defenses, and those defenses just didn't allow the police to dispel any suspicion. And so that led to further suspicion.
I did not kill my daughter, JonBenet.
Let me assure you that I did not kill JonBenet. The reality is that when a child goes missing, the very first suspects are always the parents.
We have lost a child here. No one is going to win, even when we find the killer.
After a 3-year investigation, a Boulder, Colorado grand jury spent 9 months reviewing the evidence. In all, 122 suspects were considered and then cleared.
It really doesn't matter what my opinion is or what anybody's opinion is. What matters is there evidence that can prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and it never rose to that level.
In December 2006, Patsy Ramsey died after a battle with ovarian cancer. In July 2008, District Attorney Mary Lacey announced that new DNA tests cleared Ramsey family members as suspects. Lacey said the test showed John Bonet was murdered by an unknown male. The DA wrote John Ramsey an apology for the years of suspicion the Ramseys endured.
I think Jean Bonet will never get justice. I don't think John Ramsey will ever know who killed his daughter. The stress and the nightmare of being a suspect in your daughter's own murder may have sped up Patsy Ramsey's demise. It's just a terrible case that I don't think will ever be solved.
Coming up, the #1 most shocking unsolved crime on our list.
I knew instantly that she was either had been murdered or that she had been kidnapped.